The material thermoplastic rubber, often abbreviated as TR or TPR, is found mainly in shoe soles, at least as far as our applications are concerned here. You find this in sneakers, you find this in sports shoes, but more and more soles have this material either by itself or in combination with others. Very often you find it in the shape of cup soles like this one here. One reason for that is because you can actually turn this material into cup soles very, very easily because it can be injection molded. Thermoplastic rubber, as the name tells you, is a thermoplastic material, which means it becomes moldable, it becomes shapeable as it is heated up. Unlike rubber, which is a thermosetting material, so rubber cannot be injection molded, unlike TPR. One reason for the shoe industry to use this, of course. The other reason to use this is very simply that this material does not require grinding as a preparation. Now, of course, we need to be careful with this statement. If you work on the bottom, if you make a repair, if you make an adjustment, if you make a modification, of course you need to grind it. But in a shoe factory, if you work on this side, grinding is something that would be a very time-consuming and expensive process because you can't just put it to a grinding belt, to a sander. You'd actually have to grind this here from the inside out, not injuring the lip here, the shape, and that would be very difficult. So this material was developed chemically to be able to be used with a chemical preparation, with a chemical primer. Now, unfortunately, that is what you need to do as well, because if you just grind this material and use a regular contact adhesive, a contact cement, it won't work properly. It will just peel off again. This requires a chemical primer, a chemical preparation. Of course, we have something like this. It's called Renia yellow primer, Rehagol primer. You apply this, wait 15 minutes, not just until it dries, let it actually act and react on the surface, and then you need to use the proper adhesive for it. This doesn't just work, this process doesn't just work with any contact cement, with any contact adhesive, but you need the right one. This is chemistry. A reacts with B, reacts with C, so you need the right components. What are the right adhesives? You can use either our multi-col, Col de Cologne, or Cintiq Total adhesive. Col de Cologne and multi-col are the only CR polychloropyr rubber-based adhesives that work in this combination, that work with the Rehagol. What's the advantage of that? Very simple. If you make an orthopedic lift, you're using EVA, and EVA won't stick with a polyurethane adhesive like the Cintiq Total, but with Col de Cologne, it's no problem at all. Same with the multi-col. The easiest way to recognize this material is if you see it like this. If you see this shape, if you see this cup sole, you can be pretty much sure that it is TPR, and you know what to do. Unfortunately, that's not what you see if you come from this side, either for a modification or for a repair. So how do you tell that this is TPR and not rubber or polyurethane or anything else? The first thing you do, you grind the sole. You do that anyway. If during the grinding process you actually grind into these chambers here, into this honeycomb structure, that's a very good sign that is very likely TPR, because rubber just doesn't show this kind of structure. Rubber soles aren't made that way. So that gives you a first hint. The next thing, if you clean the surface with a solvent, as generally is a good idea, what you will notice is that solvents melt the surface. The material is not stable when exposed to solvents like acetone, like thinner, like our D-Sol sole remover. So either you notice this when you're cleaning it, or you already have an idea it could be TPR, so you can test it in an inconspicuous spot, put a drop of solvent on here, maybe either rub it with your finger, rub it with a cloth, and if the color comes off, if the material starts to dissolve, you know it's TPR, and you know what to do. Another potential problem with this material, even when using the primer, is this structure here, is this honeycomb structure. Some of these have such thin structures here that it's very difficult for the adhesive to find anything to grip to. Now, one way around this is to stuff these hollow parts with paper, with cloth, with leather remnants, with cork, whatever you have on hand, and then apply our Renia Quicksole to create an easy to work with surface. Keep in mind though, Quicksole requires at least overnight, if not 24 hours to dry, so it requires a little bit more time compared to doing it directly. Generally, we do not recommend using superglue as a primer. Many people still do this, but that's not really what superglue is for. It's for fixing little spots here and there. But what most superglues lead to is cracking. So the sole might be bonded, but as soon as the customer walks out the door, it cracks and it's done. So use the Reagol, use the Col de Cologne Multicolor Syndic Total, and be sure what you work with. And then TR is not such a big challenge at all.